Hello, witchy friends, DIYers, and Hocus Pocus lovers. This is episode 3 of my Halloween crafting series. This video is part of a celebration for the premiere of Hocus Pocus 2. Our wonderful, wickedly funny hostess is Indie Annie Jones. There will be a playlist in my description box below so you can see what all the other witchy collabers came up with. And remember, if you like anything in this video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Let's head on into the first DIY. The first thing I'll be using is a carvable craft pumpkin that originally came from Michael's. It still has its tag, but I picked it up at Goodwill, which I'm sure was a good deal cheaper. It's only a small pumpkin, and for this DIY, I would recommend if you were going out to buy your own carvable pumpkin, I would get a larger size just because it's easier to carve. You've got a little more wiggle room with a larger pumpkin. I wanted to carve something Hocus Pocus into this pumpkin, and I decided on Billy Butcherson because I don't think I've ever seen anything done with him. I went online to look for pumpkin carving patterns, and I came across this site, and you can join for the least amount, $2. You can get 2 patterns and just carve your little heart out. I'll drop a link in my description box below if you want to go to Zombie Patterns and get your own. I sized the image down to what would fit onto the front of my pumpkin, and then I printed it and cut it out. Then tape the image onto one side of your pumpkin. And if you have to, in order to make the image fit better on your curved pumpkin, you might have to take scissors and cut a few little slits into the sides, and that molds the paper better to the pumpkin. You want to try to eliminate having any wrinkles. You want the parts that you're going to be cutting to be just as smooth as possible on your pumpkin. I'm using pumpkin carving tools that you get in a set at pretty much any store this time of year. Then just cut out all the lighter colored areas from the image. It's kind of hard to show on camera the actual carving process, but this is how it's going so far. And this is what I wanted to show you about buying a larger pumpkin. I'm just working with what I already had, this small one, but the areas like around his nose and mouth, if I would have continued carving, trying to carve those tiny little pieces, his whole face would have caved in. So I had to stop at one point, and I went ahead and took the paper off, and I'm going to cut a hole in the bottom of the pumpkin so we can put a tea light in and see where we're standing. And to my surprise, when I took it into, this is actually my darkened bathroom, to see how he was looking, I was astonished. I was so shocked that even though I didn't get all of his mouth carved in, he still looked spectacular. DIY number 2 is using one of these round wooden decorations from the Dollar Tree. You'll also need one of their clear chopping mats, and you'll also need some sort of LED lights, which these came from Walmart. First step is to remove any embellishments off of your wooden decoration. This one had a raffia bow. Take that off and remove the hanger. Then paint the wood round with a couple of coats of white chalk paint, making sure to completely cover any decoration that's on it. And this is optional and totally your preference, but anytime I'm using chalk paint, I like to sand when I can. The next step is to take one of the clear chopping mats and lay it over your wood round so that you can get an idea of where you'll need to cut to make a circle, which ideally, if it would fit the exact size of your wood round, that'd be great. 2 same circles would be great, but this chopping mat just doesn't quite fit the bill to make a circle as large as the wood round, so it's going to be a little bit smaller. So to use as a guide, I got out a couple of my pot lids from my kitchen, and I'm going to use the larger one to trace out a circle and then cut the circle out. Then I went online to my favorite place to get graphics, which is Creative Fabrica, and I found this graphic for the black flame candle. I pulled it up in Cricut Design Space and I sized it to the size of the round clear chopping mat, and I made a decal. But if you don't have a cutting machine, I also found this stencil available on Etsy for about $6. But if you are interested in Creative Fabrica to get these special designs, I will link that in my description box below. They have so much to choose from. It is a crafter's dream. So I highly recommend, if you can subscribe. Now the idea here is that the clear part that I just put my decal on, that's going to sit in front of the white circle background. And then it's going to be lit up from in between. So that's where the LED lights come in. These came from Walmart. They were about $3 for a pack, and they're really awesome. They do all kinds of different functions. There's a battery pack. They're not plug-in. And for the money, I really liked them. And they're purple, but you pick the color that you like. Then using clear Scotch tape, tape the light bulbs down in a circular pattern onto the white piece, and make sure that you're ending with your battery pack being toward the bottom of the circle, which for me was the part of the circle that still had the holes where the hanger used to be when this was a Dollar Tree decoration. I didn't fill those holes in because I figured they would be covered up, and they are. At the end of the project, you don't even see them. So that was the bottom of the circle to me, and that's where I aimed for the cord for my battery pack to be at the bottom where those holes are. After you get your lights secured down, then you need to attach the front piece to the back piece, and the way that I chose to do that was using the magnetic buttons from Dollar Tree. So I just put 2 of the magnets together and hid them in inconspicuous areas and hot glued them to the front to the back. I'm going to use an easel to set mine on, but you could easily add a hanger to the back, tape the battery pack to the back or Velcro it, and it could be a wall hanging as well. Have you met Indie Annie Jones? Well, if you haven't, you need to click the link down in my description box below that takes you to her YouTube channel, where you will find some of the most inspirational crafts here on YouTube. And while you're checking out her channel, scroll all the way to some of her earlier videos. She puts so much theatrics into her videos. They are so much fun to watch. You will absolutely have a ball. Don't forget to leave her a comment and let her know that the Distressed Princess sent you there. Now back to my Hocus Pocus DIYs, and the next thing up is some potion bottles. I thought that these tiny hot sauce bottles were the perfect thing to use for potion bottles. The other main ingredient you'll need is some of this resin dye powder or mica powder. I'll also have it linked in my description box below, but it makes the perfect potion. If you saw my last video, you saw me use it to make my crystal ball. The first step is to empty out those hot sauce bottles. You can save that for cooking. Clean them out really good and remove the labels. And the way I did that was just soaking them in a sink of really hot water. Then remove the expiration date from the bottles using nail polish remover. Then take the bottles over to the sink and fill them up with water. The openings at the tops of these bottles is pretty small, so I had to find something that would fit that I could use to scoop the powder and put down inside. And I found that the pin cap in my junk drawer looked like it might shovel just the right amount into the bottle. I wiped my little scooper clean with a paper towel between each different color, and I just kept adding until I was happy with the consistency. And you'll see when I shake these up how swirly and potion-like they get. Now back to Creative Fabrica to find some labels for our potion bottles. And there are all kinds of potion labels, but I decided to go with some actual Hocus Pocus designed labels. And I will again share the link for Creative Fabrica in my description box. I sized these labels to fit onto the potion bottles and printed them out with regular ink, regular paper. One of my favorite things to do if I'm making a label for a candle or what have you is to use either clear packing tape or the clear contact paper to make the label stick onto whatever I'm putting it on. So I just laid my paper labels on top of the transparent contact paper and I cut them down to size, and then you can place them on your potion bottles. Since I used the same label for all three of my bottles, I wanted there to be a tag on each one to tell what the contents are. And so I'm using oil of boil, snake venom, and bat tears. And the way that I'm going to label them is with this piece of fabric that I've had for ages and ages. And I'm using some letter stamps that I got from Michael's, and I'm just going to stamp the names of my products onto this fabric, cut it out, and I will attach it to each bottle. But for added embellishment, I'm also going to tie some of this hemp string around the neck of the bottle with a little black bead from the Dollar Tree attached to that too. Then hot glue the fabric tag on. Take this as inspiration. You don't have to have bat tears and snake venom. You can make up whatever products you want or print off different labels from Creative Fabrica. But this was a really fun one to do. For the next DIY, we're going to make a Sanderson Sisters witch broom, and you'll need a stick from the backyard. That's the cheapest route to go, or you could use the handle off of, what are they called at the Dollar Tree? The plungers. And you'll need some zip ties and some of these wispy, glittery branches from the Dollar Tree. This is really so simple. Just arrange those wispy, glittery branches around the bottom of the stick. And if you can, use a long black zip tie. My zip ties weren't really long enough to go around the stick and all these branches, so I kind of had to do them individually. But if you have a long black zip tie, perfect. Then you can get them all in one whack. Then use some kind of twine. I'm using the hemp string again, but you could use jute string. Just start wrapping the ends of those wispy branches to cover them up and make that look like the part of the broom that's attached to the handle. Now, the thing about this witch broom is it's not really for riding. It is kind of a advertisement witch broom for the Sanderson Sister Witch Broom Company, so we have to have a sign. I used a $1 sign from the Dollar General store, and I went on Creative Fabrica and found this graphic, which I'll link in my description box below. And I'm going to paint up that Dollar General sign with black chalk paint. I left it a little distressed looking, so I didn't worry with putting 2 coats. I just used 1 coat, and I liked the way that looked on the frame. And I popped out the original art. I sized, printed, and cut out my graphic and fit it into the frame, and voila. To attach the sign to the broom handle, I ran a little line of hot glue and used some string to make sort of a hanger on the back, and I tied it to the back of the broom. Then I went back and put hot glue between the sign and the broom to make sure it was extra secure. Now sometimes as a crafter you have to learn to edit yourself, and I don't know if this is one of those times or not, but I kind of felt like I wanted to add something. So I added this clip-on bat from the Dollar Tree, but I'm not certain that this broom really needs it. I mean, it's easily taken back away, but let me know in the comments, does it need the bat or does it not need the bat? In this Hocus Pocus DIY, I'm focusing on Binks the cat. And I want to know, am I the only one that was just a little bit sad when Thackeray went back to being a boy? I kind of liked him as a cat. But I am going to make a Binks themed Hocus Pocus garland. This is a super simple idea. All you need is black yarn. This came from the Dollar Tree. A whole bunch of ribbon, and these spools that I'm holding right here were 47 cents a piece at Walmart. I picked Hocus Pocus colors, of course. I'm also using ribbons from the Dollar Tree. I liked the black and purple sequins, and I'm using some of that mesh tubing from the Dollar Tree, also in Hocus Pocus colors. The first step is to paint all your Binks cats black. Then once you've got your army of black Binks cats, then it's time to start stringing them up on the black yarn. And since there are 8 cats, I figured I would try to put 1 cat each foot of the yarn, making the total garland 8 feet long. And I left a little extra on the ends of the yarn to make loops for hanging. Then just go to town, filling in between the cats, tying on the ribbons and the sequins and the mesh tubing. And you have a fun Hocus Pocus garland. Now let's take a look back at all our Hocus Pocus DIYs today. Now I'm done crafting and I'm off to watch Hocus Pocus 2. After you get done watching the movie, don't forget to check out the playlist in my description box below to see what all the other witchy collaborators came up with for this challenge. And I'll see you next time. Bye.